Hello, dear friends. Today is January 18th, 2026, and you are watching another combat map update. At the moment, we are seeing an absolutely massive number of changes, and alongside that, a very large amount of confirming evidence has come in. It feels as if information had been piling up for an entire week, and then closer to the weekend it started coming out all at once. There has also been confirmation of reports about strikes on the so-called NATO shadow fleet. It is being reported that the strikes targeted ships that had entered the ports of Odesa. The Ukrainian side, for its part, claims that food supplies were delivered to Ukraine, and that Ukraine allegedly attempted to export oil. However, intelligence reportedly stated that weapons could be present on these vessels, and that was precisely why strikes were carried out against them. In addition, over the past 24 hours, UAV impacts have been recorded on substations. Strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure are continuing. A solar panel complex is located in this area. This facility can be seen here. Sources report that there were several strikes on substations connected to this solar complex. As we can see, the area is extremely close to the Romanian border. This is how the border line of Odesa region and Ukraine runs, and UAVs are now striking practically right near that border. Nevertheless, the strikes are continuing and are being carried out on a regular basis. Now let's take a look at what is happening with the energy sector, because Ukraine is currently experiencing severe morozy. At night, temperatures are dropping to around -20 degrees. Today, the Ukrainian authorities officially acknowledged that Ukraine's entire energy system and its overall stability is now essentially being held together by only 3 power plants. The first is the Rivne nuclear power plant, located in the northwestern part of Rivne region. Next comes the Khmelnytsky nuclear power plant, located in the northern part of Khmelnytsky region. And the third is the South Ukraine nuclear power plant, situated slightly north of cities such as Odesa and Mykolaiv. In other words, these kinds of statements, both from Bankova Street and from Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, effectively tell us the following. Since the start of the full-scale conflict between Russia and Ukraine, by the end of January 2026, the Russian side has been able to inflict extremely serious damage, damaging and in many cases destroying almost all of Ukraine's energy infrastructure that is not directly tied to the operation of nuclear power plants. As a result, the window of opportunity for maintaining a fully functioning power system has narrowed as much as it possibly can. Most likely the Russian side will no longer carry out repeat strikes on those substations that have already been put out of service. And the fact that the main grid has been heavily damaged means the following. If strikes continue, then either they will be repeat attacks on facilities that are already non-operational, or strikes will be directed at the substations that ensure the direct operation of nuclear power plants, for example, the same 750 kV type substations. Also, overnight, Ukrainian sources report that the Russian Federation carried out yet another massive strike, using hundreds of drones. In total, 201 UAVs were used during the night. According to data published by Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, Ukraine allegedly managed to shoot down 167 aerial targets. Russian sources, meanwhile, are publishing their own statistics, specifying which facilities were struck. There are reports that several critical infrastructure facilities in the Khmelnytsky region were damaged. At this stage, it is difficult to say exactly what was hit, but considering that the Khmelnytsky nuclear power plant is located in Khmelnytsky region, there is a high probability that already tonight the first strikes may have been directed at facilities directly linked to the operation of that nuclear plant. Next, extremely important information is coming from various pro-Russian sources. For several days in a row, Russian sources have been releasing a large amount of video footage specifically focused on Russian drones operating against energy infrastructure targets. Today, pro-Russian sources published a video showing the activity of Geran-type drones in Zaporizhzhia region. These are the exact frames that were posted today, and they show a series of strikes by Geran-type UAVs, which, judging by everything, are hitting energy infrastructure facilities in the area of settlements such as Vasilivka, as well as to the east of the settlement of Zaporizhzhia. It is being reported that the strikes hit 330 kV substations, as well as 750 kV substations in Zaporizhzhia. In other words, we can see that attacks are now being carried out against extremely powerful substations that are directly connected to nuclear power plants. Moreover, it is worth recalling that yesterday similar videos were also being published from the Ukrainian side. One drone overflight was recorded above a substation in the area of the settlement of Kryvyi. In those frames, we do not see the actual moment of impact on the substation. However, the author of the video shows the aftermath and emphasizes that it could be the result of a strike that occurred bukvalno a minute earlier, or possibly an hour before the reconnaissance drone flew over the site. The arrows even show where exactly the strikes landed. It was Kryvyi. Yesterday, another video also appeared from the area of the settlement of Bohodukov. There is also a substation located there, and in this video, we can observe yet another Russian drone flying over. But in this case, the aftermath of the strike is clearly visible, most likely only a minute after the actual hit. We can see a fire, and the author specifically draws attention to it. Thus, for 2 consecutive days, both information and video materials have been published confirming strikes against the most important critical energy infrastructure facilities in Ukraine. And judging by the overall trend, similar materials will continue to be released. Several fires have also been recorded in Odesa region. If we speak specifically about this episode, then for now we only have a fire map. One of these fires occurred on the territory of a substation in the area of the settlement of Dobroslav, right in this location. No video footage directly confirming a strike on that substation has been published yet, but it is possible that such footage will appear in the near future. In settlements such as Kryvyi, Odesa, Kyiv, and Kharkiv, spontaneous protests regularly take place, with people demanding the return of electricity, but so far there are no signs that power will be restored on a large scale. Alright, now let us move directly to the line of contact. We will start with the Kharkiv and Sumy directions, and overall with the Kharkiv sections of the front. Today, a huge number of interesting videos are being published from the city of Kharkiv, more precisely from its outskirts. One of these videos is being actively distributed by a large number of pro-Russian experts. In these frames, we can observe the work of the Rubicon Group targeting an alleged Patriot system located southwest of Kharkiv. We can see a series of strikes, and according to the publication and the author of the footage, as a result of this attack, the Russian side allegedly managed to hit the Patriot system itself, as well as the AN/MPQ-53 radar. However, after this video appeared online, serious debates began because Patriot is an extremely expensive system, and it would mean that it was damaged or destroyed by a relatively cheap drone. For this reason, some experts began to claim that what was shown in the footage were not real systems, but decoys. At the same time, no truly convincing evidence that these were decoys has been provided. In any case, we are monitoring the situation and waiting. It is possible that the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information in the near future and include it in an official report. Next, we move toward the city of Vovchansk. Today, reports indicate that Russian units are actively advancing along the Siversky Donets River. Fighting is taking place in the areas of the settlements of Kharkiv and Semenivka. These updates are being published by pro-Russian mapping services. Overall, this fits into the broader logic of an offensive advancing along the Siversky Donets, with a possible push towards settlements such as Bohivka and Sosnovy Bir, and most likely from this direction, the Russian army may gradually begin moving toward the settlement of Bilyi Kolodiaz, both from the southwest and possibly directly from the west. Very curious footage is coming in today from the farthest northeastern parts of Kharkiv region. Let me remind you that just yesterday a video was published showing Russian drones striking explosives that had been planted under a bridge in the area of the settlement of Vavarivka. After the strike, a fairly powerful explosion occurred, and the bridge was almost completely destroyed. Already yesterday, we suggested that the bridge may have been deliberately demolished in order to intensify combat activity in this direction. Let me remind you, the bridge across Vavarivka is essentially the only route by which the Ukrainian side could redeploy its units into the most remote northeastern part of Kharkiv region. And in effect, after this bridge was destroyed, settlements such as Shabelny, Mykolaievka, as well as Nesterna and Pishchane ended up cut off from the main territory. And yesterday we assumed that after the destruction of the bridge, the Russian side would begin active operations in this sector. That is essentially what happened. Today, Ukrainian sources are already publishing video materials showing that Russian sabotage groups, moving in small detachments, have begun gradually infiltrating into the northeastern part of Kharkiv region. And there is an extremely high probability that given the lack of normal communication between this sector and the rest of the territory, Russian units will be able in the near future to advance and seize all settlements in the far northeastern part of the region, without exception. In practice, this means we may be seeing the opening of a Yaslovnaya third line of the front in the northeastern part of Kharkiv region. The first line of the front is the Vovchansk sector. The second line is the area of the settlements of Ambarne and Otradne, moving toward Katny and then toward Veliki Burluk. And now a third sector is forming, in the direction of settlements such as Reznikove, then farther south toward Prikolotne, as well as toward Bilyi Kolodiaz. As for the Kupiansk sector of the front, the situation there remains very uncertain. At the moment, it is difficult to understand what exactly is happening in that direction, so we are waiting for additional news and further confirmations. Next, we move on to the Sloviansk sector of the front, from which an especially large number of reports and confirmations have been coming in over the past few days. Here, the Russian army is conducting an active offensive along three directions at once: the Lyman sector, the direction west of the Bakhmutka River and west of Siversk, and of course, the area around the M03 highway. It is precisely in this sector that we are now seeing the highest level of dynamica and the fastest pace of Russian advances, especially around the M03. This is how the map has been changing and being adjusted here over the past several days. Let's take another look at how the situation developed. On January 12th, Russian units, as can be seen, employed a fairly broad range of assets to suppress Ukrainian forces. Drones, artillery, heavy artillery including Sontsepiok systems, aviatia, and of course assault infantry. The advances coming mainly from the Bakhmutka River direction, from the area of Soledar, at an angle toward the northwest, gradually soкращая the distance to the city of Sloviansk itself. The main events are unfolding in the area of the settlements of Privilia, Holubivka, as well as Minkivka. According to open-source information, a significant part of these settlements has likely already come under the control of Russian units, and it is possible that fighting is currently taking place for the last village in this layer of defenses, the settlement of Holubivka. Important footage was also published today from the settlement of Zakotne. This settlement is located along the Siversky Donets River and lies at the foot of strategic heights situated between points such as Kriva Luka and Zakotne. These heights are bukvalno stitched through with Ukrainian strongpoints. This is a critically important strategic defensive line used both by FPV drone operators and in general for observation, reconnaissance, and control of the surrounding terrain. This is precisely why heavy fighting has been going on for this height for quite a long time. Let me remind you that several days ago, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation reported advances in the Zakotny area. However, video materials confirming the presence of Russian units at that time appeared only from the eastern part of the village. It was at this point that a Russian soldier raising a flag was recorded. After that, some observers had doubts regarding the western part of Zakotne, which is located primarily at the foot of these heights. And only on January 18, 2026, that is, almost 4 days later, Russian units published another video from this direction. And in those frames, we can already see several Russian flags being raised by Russian soldiers in different parts of Zakotne, specifically in the western part of the settlement. Thus, there are now sufficient grounds and evidence to say that Zakotne has come under full control. At the moment, Russian units continue storming the strategic height in the area of Kriva Luka, and if advances continue in this direction, further movement towards Sloviansk may develop grazda faster. Next, we move to the Kostiantynivka sector of the front. Here, the map has also undergone serious changes. Let me remind you that just a few days ago, there was quite a large gap between the territories controlled by Ukraine and those controlled by Russian units, meaning there was a significant grey zone, which, as expected, sooner or later had to be Okhanchatalno-colored in one of the colors. The first indications appeared back on January 15th from the area of the settlement of Berostok. where Ukrainian units were striking positions of the Russian army. And already on January 18th, just a couple of days later, another video appeared in which we can observe FPV drone strikes against Russian assault troops advancing toward the settlement of Ilinka. This episode was geolocated. The strike was delivered exactly at this point. That means there are now enough reasons and confirmations to believe that the territory south of the N20-N32 highway and the city of Kostiantynivka, in the area of the Kleban-Beek reservoir, is most likely already under confident and full control of the Russian army. Russian units continue to wedge into the defensive line between Kostiantynivka, Roskoshny, Dolha Balka, and Stepanivka. The advance is moving north between several defensive lines and sections of Ukrainian positions, with the task of securing the area around Ilinka, and then, from Ilinka, forming a staging ground for a further offensive toward the northern part of the city of Kostiantynivka. Let me remind you that if we are talking about the winter campaign at the beginning of 2026, then the battle for Kostiantynivka is being viewed as the key battle of this entire campaign. Next, we move on to the Dnipropetrovsk direction. Reports are coming from this sector from the area of the settlement of Ivanivka. In the published footage, we can see a Russian fighter conducting a clearance operation against Ukrainian strongpoints in the eastern and northeastern parts of Ivanivka. Most likely it is a village. In these frames, we can also see the serviceman throwing explosives onto Ukrainian positions. These materials give grounds to believe that the northeastern part of this settlement is already under confident control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. This is exactly how the map was adjusted over the past 24 hours. The front line is being leveled out, and in practice, the staging ground has already been prepared for a further offensive toward the settlement of Novopavlivka. After the fall of Ivanivka, the pace of the offensive in the Novopavlivka area will most likely intensify and Uskoritsa. Next, we move to the Zaporizhzhia sector of the front. Several important video materials have come in from this area. One of them was received from the vicinity of the settlement of Sherbaki. Ukrainian sources are publishing a video in which a series of FPV drone strikes against Russian units in this sector is recorded. This, in turn, may indicate that the Russian army is gradually advancing eastward from the Stepnohursk bridgehead, with the aim of moving into the rear and approaching from the west toward the Ukrainian grouping positioned in the area of the settlement of Kharkiv. The pace of the offensive here does not appear to be high, but progress is nevertheless being recorded. In the Huliaipol direction, a video was published showing several Ukrainian servicemen, more precisely, 7 Ukrainian soldiers, surrendering west of Huliaipol. This location was geolocated. It is in this area that the Ukrainian soldiers are moving toward the town, where they are then received by Russian fighters. It was established that these soldiers likely came from strongpoints located between Zaliznichne and Huliaipol itself. That means, considering that these positions were abandoned, including a fairly powerful fortified strongpoint of the armed forces of Ukraine, there is an extremely high probability that new geolocations from this direction will appear in the near future. And after that, fighting will begin for the southwestern, more precisely the southeastern and eastern, parts of the settlement of Zaliznichne. And that is all, dear friends. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and leave your likes. All the best to you.